Hi, Tony Selzo here. Welcome to Line, yet another technology company in the B2B world being launched in Indianapolis, Indiana. I'm here to tell you this is the Silicon Prairie of the US, right? So Michael Manross is one of the founders of Get, Say, Do. Now, great simple name, very clean, but this is really the next generation of customer feedback, of vendor feedback, of understanding how we're actually doing and providing the services we provide. Talk to me about how what gave you the inspiration to start this company.
Sure. Well, we came from consulting background, and anytime you go into an organization, our first question is how do your customers feel about what you're providing?
Mm-hmm.
And uh, 9 times out of 10, people would say, "Hey, I've got a deck that I could pull up," or at the end of the day, they didn't have timely information or it wasn't easily accessible.
Mm-hmm.
And so we saw an opportunity to take the model that we've used in consulting for years across both B2C and B2B and standardize it, streamline it, make it easy for everybody involved to use.
Right. And really allow that think about consulting and just in that example alone. How much does it cost to get a client, to maintain a relationship with a client, and then to be at risk and lose and then try to re-win? We're talking about, thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars. Yet there's so many companies that are just at risk with this relationship. And they really don't need to be, right? There could be a simple feedback loop that they can provide to themselves. There's a lot of times there's what we call mutual mystification, right? They think one thing and we think the other. And that goes on a lot in consulting. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, yeah, I definitely would. Even with face-to-face conversations, because there's a relationship there, a human component, it's difficult to get a complete story about, all right, yeah, I think we're good, but, what are the areas that maybe you're not as good? How does that vary across that relationship, either across the different touch points or over time? And so, yeah, there's definitely an easier way, and we think we've created one to just keep a pulse on how those customer relationships are doing over time.
And you're not the first company to do this. I mean, Net Promoter was huge in what they're launched by answering the what question, but they really don't provide the kind of contextual, really data that you need to get better. And I think that's really what differentiates you from some of the competition is adding layers of data, pulling implicit data in and explicit data, and then allowing you to create the conversation to create blueprints for success. I mean, am I overstating that, or is that really what you guys are doing?
Yeah, so NPS score, Net Promoter Score, they won because they're extremely simple, one question. And then, there's the very traditional method, which is I'm going to ask you 10 plus minutes worth of questions, and then I'm going to find one specific area and try to do something about that.
Right.
We're trying to bridge those things. From what we've talked to with a number of prospects and customers, is NPS doesn't provide enough detail, whereas people are fatigued with trying to provide the 5+ minute surveys and things like that. So we want to find a balance where customers and people are willing to provide feedback as long as it's easy to do. With us, it takes about a minute consistently with standardized questions. So we're not burning anybody's time, and then the feedback is easy to see for anybody who needs to know.
Now, Mike, one of the things that we see changing the entire technology SaaS world is mobility. And how do you see that affecting the future for Get, Say, Do?
Sure. People need information, and they need it when they need it in real time. So often with people that we talk to, they might have an annual survey, let's say, but by the time you go through the process of creating a survey, sending it out, getting the results back, analyzing those, sharing them with whoever needs to know, you've got a month or maybe more in that process. And with annual surveys, you've got about a month's worth of data where it's actually good. Mm-hmm. So you're missing out on 11 months worth of data.
Right.
And, so with mobility, people want to be able to see the information on whatever device that they're using. Mm-hmm. And so we also make that possible, whether it's desktop, tablet, or your phone.
Well, and I think one of the things that you guys are doing is you're creating an ecosystem that is a tighter feedback loop. And this is one of the things that, whether you're reading the Lean Startup or whether you're talking to Traction or growth hackers, in order to evolve and to take a company out faster, you have to tighten the feedback loop between you and your customer base. You have to create a more intimate relationship, a more tightly knitted relationship. And if you're in consulting or you're in software, or you're in one of these spaces, medical device, a pharma, whatever, it's that relationship with the people that are on the front lines using the product and the services that are setting the stage for high growth or mediocre growth or dying, right? And that it's more important than it's ever been because there's so much more competition than there's ever been. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think so. With our tool, we're looking to provide people with a strategic, aggregated view. As companies grow and scale, it's very difficult to keep that pulse on what's going on. Now, I will say we're not a customer service app or not one around product management, but for a leader, an executive who wants to keep an overall pulse on how things are going, be able to make strategic priorities around budgeting, financials. We're providing a solution that can do that, and can do that in an objective way where people aren't making assumptions about what's going on and the different facets of their business.
Right. I mean, it really taking the CEO from being the last person to know to giving them true visibility into the relationship they have with their customer base. I mean, that is an unfair advantage for any company that's competing in a market that's been around for a while, competing in a market that's emerging, or really even a market that is looking for that competitive advantage. You've got BI that you can stick in the hands of the person making the tough decisions to help them make those tough decisions. Essentially, that's what GetSay does, doesn't it?
It puts the vendor feedback in the hands of the people that need to know. It does it in real time on any device. It's simple, at the end of the day. And whether you're the CEO or whether you're, managing, an account manager on the front lines or a procurement category manager, it gives you the data that you need to know to stay abreast of your business, and gives you the time to spend actually doing something about that data rather than trying to analyze it constantly.
Actionable data. I mean, that's what we're all looking for. Thanks so much for being on the show.
Yeah. Absolutely, Tony. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you.